How are you all doing? Let me try that again. How are you all doing? Much better. Welcome to the recruiter panel. Quick couple of questions for you all. How many of you have ever applied to a job and never heard from that company again? Your resume goes into what we call the black hole. Awesome. You're in the right place. How many of you would want to know how you can increase your chances of getting noticed from employers? Raise your hand. Awesome. You are all in the right place. Okay, so tonight we have our panelists of recruiters here. I will ask them to introduce themselves here in a little bit. Tonight is really all about learning what the process is behind the scenes, right? What happens, you know, what is that black hole? What does that look like? How can you avoid getting in that black hole? And also, what can you do to increase your chances of getting employed at some companies here in the Bay Area and in the United States? So, how to get noticed, you know, how to talk to people, all those sorts of things. Sound good? Awesome. So let's get started. We'll start here with Ken first and work down the line. If each of you can introduce yourself.
My name is Ken Meyerhoff. No, it's not. It's on. There you go. Magic. My name is Ken Meyerhoff. Prior to the past 15 years in the search arena, my background includes being Vice President of Finance of a $60 million company. I'm a former consultant, prior to consulting, I worked for a number of companies, some Fortune 500 companies, some small entrepreneurial concerns. I'm also an SEC registered broker-dealer and former member of the Chicago Board Options Exchange. And happy to be here this evening. Thank you for the invitation.
My name is Carl Sweet. I have been in the staffing industry here in Silicon Valley for over 20 years. I've worked on a few little projects. I did the Toy Story team at Pixar. I worked with Steve Jobs quite closely in building out Apple's advanced technology group, OS 6, 7, and 8. And in between there, I built this little thing called Java. So, did a few things like that. Since then, worked in companies, small companies. Any of you with a marketing bent, you will know the company Marketo. I took them from 200 employees up to 500 employees and built out the whole recruiting function for them. Now what I do is I consult with companies and building out the whole end-to-end recruiting function, from building out pipelines to candidate to training staff on how effectively to interview, all the way down to the whole hiring process. So thank you very much for having me here.
Hi. I'm Jennifer Kopatz, and I know, I get some electric. I used to work with James, actually, 15 years ago, so we're former colleagues. I currently work at YouTube Google as a recruiter in engineering. I spent 7.5 years at Cisco and was a lead and had 6 direct reports previous to that, and then I was at Google before that. I was in a small company, and then the agency world here in San Francisco.
I am Andrew Haywood. I don't have such an impressive background just yet as the folks here on the panel. I started my career in Japan, actually, at an agency in Tokyo for about 4 or 5 years. Moved back to the States, joined Google right after IPO, so I've been lucky to work for companies like Google, Twitter, Rocket Fuel at different stages of their growth, different startups. I'm with an early stage startup right now, Origami Logic, a 50-person startup in Menlo Park. Great to be here.
We'll figure out that microphone thing here. Okay, so let's get started. First question, and I don't think that there's any particular order, so you know, if you have a good answer for this question, feel free to speak up. First question, what trends have you been seeing in hiring over, say, the last couple of years?
Hello. One of the big trends, of course, is the whole social media has really taken off, especially over the past couple of years. I'm seeing that there's a huge belief that you should know about the company you're applying to. There's no reason not to know about the company you're applying to. And in many cases, you should know about the people you're interviewing with. And there's no reason not to know about the people you're interviewing with. And I'm seeing a bigger, higher slant towards employee referrals. A good company will do anywhere from, I want to say, 15 to 30%. Over the past couple of years, I've seen that inch higher, and that is because of social media. So companies are moving away from the passive postings of just posting out a job description out there and having people passively apply to, let's go ahead and let's find the people that we actively know. And because there's so many different tools out there, there's no reason to know somebody at a company. So that's been the biggest trend I've seen.
The biggest trend I've seen is, of course, that there are a limited amount of candidates for each role. There's so many growing companies, especially here in San Francisco and Silicon Valley. So if you're lucky enough to be out interviewing, we have people getting multiple offers, which is great for this population that's looking for new roles. The other thing is there is a lot of research, as Carl said. You can go on Glassdoor, you can read all about the interview process. You can read, people are posting, what exactly it's like. Doing that research ahead of time when you get into an on-site interview is really viable for yourself to prepare for the interview, how the company interviews. Every company kind of interviews a little differently, but to be prepared for their style of interview is really, really important. And I think you have that knowledge here, so it's really accessible.
Yeah, and allowing the knowledge that you've picked up prior to the interviews to show during the interview is a good thing. People like people who are, whether they're recruiters or more importantly hiring managers, and knowing that you were interested enough to do a little bit of research about the company and about them prior to coming in shows interest on your part, and that's a good thing. And it also can help you formulate directly relevant questions that you may ask during an interview. When you ask you should always ask questions during an interview. Asking questions is a sign of interest. Not having any questions indicates you're not interested. Of course, beware the questions you ask are a bit is telling about the quality of you as a candidate and the answers you give to questions asked of you. And again, coming back to the original question in terms of trends, this is a diverse audience. We are a diverse group. Diversity and broad-mindedness, hopefully, I think, is increasing, not decreasing. So, bear in mind that anybody you interview with, in the impressions you leave with hiring managers are much more important than impressions you may leave with recruiters. Anytime you meet a recruiter or a hiring manager, for that matter, their orientation when they meet you is one of acceptance, not of rejection. They want, in the next 20 minutes, to believe that you're the person they want to hire. They want to be done. They want to go on to, the other things that are important for them to do.
Okay, so a quick follow-up question to that, which is, are there any hiring practices or trends that you see that are unique to the San Francisco Bay Area?
Well, one big trend, I'm noticing even now in the last year, things are moving really fast. People get multiple offers like we mentioned just earlier. Referrals are going to be very powerful. Don't be afraid to connect. Don't be afraid to connect with people. So I'll just stand there. For example, I was just talking with someone the other day, and I'm connected with her on LinkedIn, and she works out in the East Coast. And basically, she's starting to plan her season, do informational interviews with folks in different companies and different industries. She wants to do a career transition. She hasn't created her new revision of the resume, but she's starting to talk to people now. So people are going to hire who they trust, and that's where the employee referral is very important. That's really don't be afraid to go out there, go to meetups, put yourself out there, on LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever, blog, really showcase what you can do.
One of the things I've seen, for what Andrew said here, as far as getting to know the company, getting to know the people in there, LinkedIn, absolutely, I'm sure these people have a lot more than I do. I've got 1,800 first line connections, which connects me up to 22 million people out there. So we would rather hire from somebody that knows somebody than from somebody who's coming fresh off the street. So once upon a time, I put together this rule. It's my 88-1 rule, which is basically a company to hire one person will have to receive 80 resumes, go through 8 interviews to hire one person. Now, of course, that differs from department to department, but as a general rule, that's kind of where it goes. Now, when it comes down to referrals, it goes down to what I deem as the 4-2-1 rule. 4 resumes, 2 interviews, 1 hire. So you do the math and decide which side of that you want to be on. Now, the really cool thing is the amount of information that's out there on people. It is so easy to get a name, get an email address of anybody that you're looking for. And it doesn't even have to be someone that you know, it's someone you have a connection with. Someone from your country of origin, somebody from your the school you've graduated from, somebody from someplace that you have a connection with. And so when you connect with these people inside this company you want to work with, it's not necessarily, hey, can you get me a job? It's, hey, who do I need to talk to? How do I, can we have an informational interview as far as, how I prepare myself to, work for your company? What do I need to do in order to be part of your team? One of the tools that we use out there, we were talking about this back in the back room, is, if you find a person on LinkedIn that works at a company that you want to work for, and you do want to reach out to, supposing if it's at a company called Siebel, okay? What you do is you go to Google, you do star.star@siebel.com. And what they'll do is they'll pull up email addresses. So your star.star is your wildcard at siebel.com. They'll pull up email addresses for people. You may not find the person that you're looking for, but you'll figure out how their email system works. Is it first name underscore last name? Is it first initial last name? And then from there, by knowing the person's name, you now know their email address. Ping them, send an email. Say, hey, I want to come work for your company. What do I need to do? It's a very powerful tool, and I guarantee if you send out 5 or 6 emails, you're going to get a response. And there you've made the connection with somebody. There it is seen as, hey, I know this person, and use that to your favor.
Okay, so I'm just going to interrupt there real quick. And did everyone just get that tool, that tip? This is sort of a common tip that I think a lot of recruiters use, but maybe not known to the general population. So in other words, if you have a name of a person that works at a company, you have Google to use to find that person's work email address. So you can use can you repeat the trick?
Yeah, so star.star, I call it star.star at whatevercompany.com. So star.star at microsoft.com, star.star at inktome.com, star.star at pixar.com. And what that will do is, it'll pull down email addresses. But again, you may not find exactly the person you're looking for, but you'll figure out how their email system works.
I would also say for LinkedIn, for yourself, to have a really strong profile. It really is your resume these days. I mean, we use LinkedIn as one of the most primary sources for recruiting people. And making sure that it's a very full profile. It's out there. It's got all your information, all your projects, and a lot of you are in school, so you don't have necessarily work information. All your projects you've worked on, projects you're doing on the side is important too. Things that you're doing at home or in school is very important to beef up your resume. It basically is your resume, and it's your first foot in the door in. People are going to look at your LinkedIn profile before they invite you in for an interview.
Why is it important, Jennifer, to include the rest of the information that you were talking about in terms of what you're doing at school and your projects?
Because it shows what you've been doing, what you're passionate about. Also, we do a lot of search strings, and so these words are going to come up. But if you're doing things on the side, you may not have the practical experience, but it shows that that's what you're interested in. If you're doing things on the side, then you're going to be more likely to want to work 12 plus hours a day in a company doing the same type of thing.
So quick question, and I'll get to you, Ken, real quick. How many of you are changing careers? doing something different than when you came here before? A lot of you. So this is sort of I think, a pretty good tip for people that are changing careers in terms of, how can you show expertise, potentially how can you show that you know how to do something, even if you don't have the necessary or the work experience, potentially project work.
And
Volunteer.
in some ways, you can view your LinkedIn profile as an addendum to your resume. Don't get carried away. Keep it brief, keep it professional. And similarly, in terms of picking people by email, again, just keep it brief, keep it to the point, who you are, what you want, why.
I torn apart several companies as far as looking at what they look for as far as candidates and what that company identity is. And I came up with 5 particular identities that go across multiple different companies. They're looking for innovation, communication, collaboration, accountability, and passion. In many cases, especially in tight markets, the passion part of it means more than the rest. We found out that we can teach you skills, but we can't teach people passion. And so if you are going and you are changing, your career, where you're going, you're changing it hopefully for the right reasons, that you have a passion in what you do. When we were building out Pixar, we couldn't find anyone to do any CGI because CGI really wasn't there. And so what we did was we hired hardware engineers, software engineers that had a passion for CGI. That was the secondary attribute that they had, but they were passionate in it. And it was really nice to know. I was back at Pixar just a couple years ago, and they still hire along the same ideal, that the passion carries more, in some cases, than the actual skill sets. I mean, you do have to have a base root in the skill sets. But, it can be things that you do on the side, things that you learned. And, if you do that email, if you do that LinkedIn email, there's ways in which you can go ahead and state a passion in what you do. One of the questions I ask, fresh students, how do you get your geek on? What is it that you do outside of day-to-day academia? What is it you do in your spare time that shows that you're really into that which you do? And it could be, social groups, it could be, a number of things. Books you've read, projects you've done on the side. Don't think that at the end of the school day, your day is done. Or at the Friday, your day is done. Your job is to prepare yourself for your job. Because you're going to find out in the real world, at the end of the day, your day sometimes is not done. On Friday, your day is not done. So treat it almost as a job, and try and portray yourself out there.
Can you repeat the 5 points again?
All companies look for 5 basic things in candidates, attributes: innovation, communication, collaboration, accountability, and passion. And this is actually very important when you go to interview, to show how you've innovated, how you communicated, how you collaborated, how you're accountable. Hey, I screwed up here, but this is what I've learned. This is how I moved on. This is where I went ahead and I innovated. I did something that no one else can do. I like to believe that we are all superheroes. That we all have someone or something that we've all done that no one else sitting next to you can do. We all have little things about us that is different than the rest. Have those things shine out. We are all superheroes, but you have to be able to portray that. So that could be in your innovation. Communication, how do you work and communicate with not only people next to you, above you, below you, in teams? How do you collaborate? Because these are what companies are looking for. No longer are the days where you sit in one group and that's all you do. Now you're working with people in cubes all the way around you, top floor, down floor. We want people that can go ahead and move across the company.
Okay, next question. And I think we covered this a little bit, but I'll ask the other panelists here. What is it that you look for in a candidate? What makes a successful candidate through your hiring process? Andrew, I'll start with you.
Sure. Paul kind of mentioned it earlier with the 5 attributes or identities. One big thing for my current startup and a lot of other companies, if you're a candidate, good follow-through is very important. Good communication, good follow-through. Even a nice thank you note at the end, or being very curious, being intentive in terms of the kind of questions asked during the interview. It's very important. Being genuine. Don't over-exaggerate the kind of skills you have, because people can find out pretty quickly in interviews you're not good at something because they're good at what they do. And being genuine. I think if you're genuine, you really show that passion, that's going to help a lot. And don't be afraid to make a mistake. Maybe this is not going to be the right company for you. Each company has its own unique culture, unique way, similar attributes or identities, but they do it in a different manner. And you'll see that when you start interviewing different companies, different management styles. You might not mesh with certain types of management styles or different people, so you'll find that match. But I would say those are some key things to look at during the search. And have a lot of tenacity, don't give up. It's a process. As you know, the good news is the market's definitely heating up. There's a lot of roles that are opening up. Big companies, startups. So just don't give up, make it a process. It's your job to find a job, and most importantly, connect with people. The more people you connect with, the easier it is you're going to find that ideal role, or that path to the ideal role.
What I look for is somebody that has, we're always looking for sort of a fit, a fit for the roles that we have open. But in general, what we like is flexibility, because people do have to move around from project to projects a lot, even at Cisco when I was there. Another thing is really having good questions, good knowledge of the company, and being able to answer the questions that are directly asked of you in an interview is very important. Don't try to kind of dodge the question. I mean, make sure that you don't also go off on a tangent, that you kind of address the questions that are asked succinctly. Good communication's good, passion. People like to have people that have like energy, high energy is a biggie. Well, I hear that a lot coming out of interview debriefs from hiring managers and teams. It's like, well, the person is great, but they kind of lack energy. So that's really important to show in an interview.
So I'm having trouble. So there's three things that a hiring manager is looking for, whether they realize it or not. And it's good at an intrinsic fundamental level for you folks to keep in mind what those are. The first thing is, can you do a good job? Are you capable of doing an outstanding job? The second one is, are you motivated to do a great job? Do you want to do a great job? And the third one is, do you fit in the environment in which the job's done? If the answers to those three questions are yes, you probably get a formal offer of employment. All those things said, the most important piece of advice I can give to any candidate, regardless of level, is be yourself. To the extent, advertently or inadvertently, you're not yourself, then your new employer hired somebody other than the person they thought they hired. They'll figure that out very quickly, and if you got a problem, they got a problem. And I say the same thing to hiring managers. The job is what it is. It's not what it's not. It isn't what it isn't. The opportunities for growth are what they are. They aren't what they aren't. And to the extent that your new employee thinks it's something different, and they accepted a job different than the one they thought they accepted, and they'll figure that out very fast. And then everybody's got a problem again, and nobody wants to be there.
Okay, switching gears here a little bit. So we've got different forms of getting noticed by companies, right? We've got social media, we've got resumes, you've all heard about networking, you've got to go out and meet people. Can each of you kind of give a brief rundown of where you typically find the most candidates? In other words, where do you search for people? Where do you typically get most of your employees?
So I'm a big numbers guy. I love numbers. Devil's in the numbers. So I can tell you at Marketo, for instance, 30% or 29.88% of our employees were gathered via employee referrals. 29.92% of our employees came from career sites. The rest came from various avenues, job fairs, contract conversions, also internships. Okay, so you can see that the bulk came from the employee referrals and also our career site. Now, with that said, I have seen a shift, as I said earlier, from at one point 15% of your employee hires from employee referrals was considered to be good. Now that's creeped up to 30%. And what you're starting to see is an erosion from the other areas. And I graphed this out once for this talk I was giving, and I actually showed a turning point which happened in about 2008, 2009, this inflection point of where things started changing from the employee referral system. And believe it or not, that was right about 2008, 2009 was right when LinkedIn really started gaining ground and really kind of bent where employees start coming from. You know, where things started going like this, they started going like this and flattening out. Employee referrals are going like this, started going higher. So I have not run numbers for 2014 yet, but my belief is going to be that less are coming from career sites and more are coming from employee referrals.
For my current company, it's me proactively sourcing or reaching out to people or employee referrals. I had one person that got hired via an application. The rest have been me going on LinkedIn or some other avenue to find someone, reaching out to them, or through a mutual, someone within the company to refer them. The other source has been an external agency partner. So the rest, let's say 90% have been through the referral or me actually reaching out to someone.
The majority of our candidates are employee referral as well as sourcing LinkedIn and those types of avenues. That's why LinkedIn, we say, make sure you're out there and searchable. At Cisco, a lot of it was also employee referral and through the hiring manager, so that's another way. I would definitely say to network as best you can so you can kind of get noticed. And then contract conversion, which you said. So that's kind of another avenue. If you're not getting the perfect full-time job you want, you know, be flexible. Become a contractor. Get your foot in the door. Get the experience. So those are all ways for you to kind of get in. You don't have to have the full-time job today, but get the experience. Get an experience in a good company. Good company names will go very far in your career.
Okay, so I think it's pretty clear that there's a trend towards networking and employee referral programs. What tips do you have for our audience? The overwhelming majority of you come from all over the world. What sort of tips do you have for our students to network, say, into your company or any company?
Well, one is, you know, if you're on LinkedIn or some other kind of platform like that, like we said earlier, reach out to individuals. Don't be afraid. Say, hey, I'm thinking about getting into this space or this kind of role. Can I talk to you, or can I buy you a coffee? People have reached out to me to do that, and I've kindly done that. You know, I was very happy to spend 5 minutes of time to try to help them out. Go to meetups, meet people, try to connect the dots. Obviously, if you're not from this area, your pool of people that you actually know is going to be small, so create a wider net of individuals that you're going to get to know and learn from. For example, all of the roles I've had, even as when I came back from Japan, I spent about 5 years out there, and typically I was an American guy but didn't have any experience here in my own home country. I found a role at Google because I knew someone there, and ever since then people have reached out to me for certain opportunities, and that's what will happen. After a while, your network will start reaching out to you when an opportunity arises, and you will decide if you want to take it or not.
One of the things I really tell people is have that pitch of yourself ready. And, you know, everyone says, okay, a pitch, wow, that's going to be really tough. I mean, if you think about it, it's just 3 main components: what you did, how you did it, and what made you great. You know, this is what I did, this is how I did it, this is why I'm great, this is why you want to hire me. And I like to put students through this kind of scenario. Imagine if you're driving down Highway 101, you're right around Palo Alto, you get the car in front of you, you all pull over, and the guy in the car in front of you, his name's Mark Zuckerberg. What do you want to say? You just want to drool upon yourself? You know, hey, sorry, I hit your car. Hey, let me tell you about myself. You know, because you never really know when you're going to use it. Two of the stories I like to use is two of the best hires I ever made. One of them was standing in line at McDonald's. And it was a VP of engineering who was standing in line at McDonald's, and we talked, and he pitched himself to me, and he just was fantastic. Another one was at the dumps. I was, you know, doing a construction project, and I was dumping a bunch of stuff at the dumps, and the guy next to me in the truck next to me was another VP of engineering. and just was able to talk about himself. So don't be afraid to have your story ready for practice, because one of the things that's going to help you is when you're at the interview, the very first question they're going to ask you is, tell me about yourself. And I always love it when I ask that question and all I get is a drool out of their mouth. Have that pitch ready and be ready to go ahead and make yourself shine.
And that pitch ought to be short, and it ought to be succinct, and he's absolutely right. You ought to have it at the ready all the time. Not only for traffic accidents, but I've seen meetups where the room is full. Hey, that doesn't keep people from meeting up outside the room. They never have the need to get in. They do what they need to do just by meeting up with folks that are outside. He's right. Always have it ready. What you've heard said about referrals, I absolutely agree with. From the standpoint of the employer, understand what's going on, and that is the probability that they hire a good employee increases to the extent that they know more about the person. And if they know more about the person because a current employee knows of that person through one way, shape, or form, could be professionally, could not be, that reduces the risk of making a bad hire and increases the probability of making a good hire. Coming back to the pitch for a moment. Again, I say short and succinct, I mean that, but everything he said is right. But put it around, make sure people understand your objective. Say, I'm looking for a job. Just, be direct. Don't keep people guessing. Don't have people wondering why you're telling them about yourself. Or don't have guesses to your life's history, just as he said, in terms of when people say, start an interview with tell me yourself. That's an opportunity for you to take that question wherever you want. Take advantage of it. And so too, when you meet people, direct that conversation. Say, hey, I don't know if you can help me, here's something about me, whatever, I'm looking for a job. Just say it.
So I'm going to ask one more question of our panelists, and then after that I'll open it up to the audience. I know there are some questions over here, so start thinking of questions. Last parting question for each of you, which is, if you have one tip to give our students, one sort of parting gift, what would it be in terms of what they can do as international students? How can they leverage themselves to get into?
Can you speak up, please?
Okay, so the question was, my final question to them, and I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience, which is, if you had one tip to give this student population, international students, to get into their company, what would it be?
So this is something I like to tell students. I gave a series of lectures once, and they were titled Eat a Twinkie, which basically meant, go out and try things you haven't tried before, and stretch yourself, learn how to stretch yourself, and that, the answer's no unless you try. It really is no unless you try. Don't be afraid. Push yourself. Try things you never tried before. If it's a job that you may not think that's really down your path, you may want to give it a try, because you could later on move into that job that is your path. So try and just see what happens. You're early enough in your careers where this may not be the right job for you, but maybe the next one is, and you start planting the seed for the next one. So give it a go.
Yeah, my 1 year in Japan turned out to be 5 years, and it took me in a whole different direction. I never intended to be a recruiter. I didn't know what it was about, but I love what I do, and it just happened this way. But yeah, don't be bold, and like Carl said, maybe this first step here may not be the exact step you're planning, but it's going to be your next step maybe, or the following step. So you really do have to plant the seeds, because nothing will follow the way you imagine it, but you'll get there, but maybe not the way you planned.
I would say if you're in the U.S. and you have a limited time, really utilize the time you have here. Go to meetups, socialize, use your network. If your network is more back home, people are connected to people here. So you really kind of utilize all of your networks. You know, a friend of your father's could have a company here or be working in a company here. You might have to stretch your connections, but you might as well do it while you are here in this country and go to meetups. I would definitely say that's really important.
I know that many of you aren't from this country, and I know that there's, you know, citizenship, visa, and whatnot problems, and I don't know about those. But I do know that lots of employers in this country are interested in diversity. They're interested in diversity culturally, and they're interested in diversity in terms of mentality. That's an opportunity for you. You know, I don't know, you're not the fat old white American that, you know, that I am. You know, so it's an advantage. You know, play to it. It's going to play better with some hiring managers than others. It's going to play better with some companies than others. Some companies do work or sell products multinationally. You know, each of your experience sets are helpful, and they bring things to that company's and that hiring manager's table.
Ready for a Q&A?
Yes. My name is Daniel. I'm from the Netherlands, and as a former military officer, I get great responses on my resume. But then I get the next question: do you need a visa? I don't know how to respond, so if you can help.
Well, I would be transparent about it. You know, if you're usually you can maybe get on an OPT, for example. But yeah, be transparent about it. Don't dance around, because if you pretend that you can legally work here without a visa, then it'll get even more hairier, and then they'll think badly of you at the end of the day. But be transparent. That's my take.
I would also be open to going back to your country of origin, working in a lot of these companies have sites in your country of origin or somewhere where they're more open, maybe Canada or somewhere else, and then coming back to the US. So you don't have to give up, but maybe trying some different angles would be helpful.
And one of the things I'm seeing now is, you know, just through globalization, you could have a 50-person company that can be truly global. You know, this is something we never had before. I'm seeing more and more companies that are 50, 60, 70, 100 people that have people all over the world. So, you know, one of the things you can do is actually use it to your advantage, saying, hey, you know, I really like to work for a company. Have you thought of maybe having someone based here? Or have you thought of maybe opening up into these different regions? Or, you know, like was said, you know, you have, you know, companies that have offices. I also have seen historically, a lot of people do go the Canada route. You know, they'll go into Canada and then Canada pop on into the United States.
Well, yeah, just on Carl's, my company is 50 persons. We have 2 people in Thailand, 1 person in Canada, 1 person in Italy, some folks in Ukraine. We're thinking about opening up a real branch in Canada to help people with the visa situation. We're relocating a guy from Italy to Canada. So companies are being more flexible now.
So just to follow up on that, Career Services and the Visa and Compliance team will be hosting an event on January 27th. We'll have a special speaker. His name is Dan Beaudry, and he will speak specifically to that question there. That'll be a whole seminar on, okay, so you are an international student. How do you deal with the OPT issue when you're applying and also during the interview process? So more to come on that.
Hello, my name is Mazim. I'm from India and I'm a current MBA student. My question is, what is the right time to apply for a job? For example, if I see an opening now, even if I get through, I will not be able to join until September. So what is the right time to apply for a job and get?
Well, in general, with the H-1B, yeah, you should apply now. Then if you get hired, there's that filing process, and you actually have to get approved. I think you start October of this year, basically, here in the U.S., but maybe if they have a branch in India or somewhere else, or Canada, maybe you can work there until you get the H-1B, for example. A lot of companies do that.
I think anytime's a good time to
I would
apply.
say that too. I would say don't wait.
You know, I've seen instances where my company's hired someone and they had waited 6 months for that person to be ready, or 8 months. You know, I wouldn't say, oh, I'll be available in 2 years, but you know, if a job is made for you and you're made for that job, the company will wait. You know, so if you find that really good opportunity, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime's a good time. You know, never stop selling. You never know when opportunities are going to present themselves. You know, be ready to identify them and capture them. Even after you have a job, you never stop selling. I mean, how you sell and what you sell is different, but you never stop selling.
I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but I would say that's very true, because even when you do get the job, your dream job, it is your brand, so just kind of keep that in mind. You're always networking with your coworkers. Your coworkers are going to leave to another company. They may take you with you, then it's a lot easier to get an employee referral. So your brand is very important as an employee, as a student, as an employee. So just remember to keep that in mind. You're never stop looking for another job.
You know, one of the good things going for you right now as students is you do have time to go ahead and network out there and actively start making those connections with VP CEOs, with whatever. I had a student of mine who had a job all lined up, wasn't going to be graduating for another 7 months. And what he did was he decided to build a website to help his fellow students find jobs. And in the process, he interviewed CEOs in companies in his field, about 8 of them, and vice presidents and whatnot, to find out what they were looking in hiring people, graduates from his school. And you know, I told him, I said, hey, that's really great that you're giving back. He said, no. I now know the CEOs of 8 companies in my field. I now have a job for the rest of my life. So yeah, so do use this time to your advantage.
And, you know, so I rhetorically posed the question, you know, what's the difference between networking and job seeking? I don't think there is any. So just as I say never stop selling, never stop networking.
Hi, my name is Sober. I'm an electrical engineer and I'm doing MBA here. First of all, thank you very much for all the insights. It's really important for us. And thank you, Daniel, for pointing out that question, because we represent around 100 countries here, and none of us most of us doesn't even have a social security number. So everybody, most of the people here are wondering, what are the odds that I'm going to get a job in the United States? It's common for all of us. So as much information you give to us about the topic, as much you're going to have to us. But my personal question is, how is the market, in which conditions you would go through the hassle of applying for the H-1B and having the candidate in your country, in your company? And is there a specific limit coming from your employers that's telling to you, okay, this is your budget for H-1B, or you cannot spend this time for H-1B? What are the specific limitations? Would that be a good idea? For example, if I feel like I'm a good candidate, but the company is stepping back only because of costs of H-1B, would that be a good idea to offer to contribute to the cost, or somehow to contribute to process as the candidate? Thank you very much.
Well, an example, one, the market's hot. There's a lot of people hiring. So some companies don't get enough candidates, some get too many, some may push back if they have too many candidates. Really the budget would be how much headcount do I have to hire, or what does the team have to hire for, what's my candidate flow. But in regards to the H-1B, yeah, I mean, for my company, we're a small startup, we have funding. I think half of the companies I'm from the US, right? So they're very open for folks from all around the world, and especially for that size, it's kind of not common. But overall, if you have the skill set, the passion, they're going to want to talk to you, and it's more about will you fit the timeline for the U.S. government to process your H-1B? Will you hit it or you miss it? And does the company have headcount for X amount of people? Do you fit the right role.
Just, my understanding is your last question about would it be helpful if you contributed towards the fees towards the H-1B. My impression is that it's illegal for you to pay it. I think the companies.
Yeah, I mean, maybe small companies. I would say that what's happened the last few years, there's a lottery system, so every company sort of allotted so many people. I mean, and there's basically a lottery. So even if we apply, we had this at Cisco too, we applied for all the people we had an offer for, only so many got selected. It was a complete lottery system, and so then at that point we had some obligation to, because we had hired, to relocate some of these candidates to other parts of the world. So I would say, you know, there are kind of ways around this. There aren't probably the most legal. I would say don't offer it, you know, really. It shows maybe even a bit of desperation. So you don't want to look desperate either. There are agencies and companies that have so much of, they have also part of this lottery. You can maybe, again, be a contractor and then join a company, then you're here and then you can move around on the transfer. The other thing is, I would say, is be very flexible about where you would work. I mean, you're already flexible to come here to the US to study. Be flexible of where you would work.
I find that usually companies in the 200 to 1,000 person range tend to be a little bit more flexible, you know, and that might be just a bias from my end. Usually when companies get to 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 employees, they tend to have really distinct, you know, guidelines around what they can do, what departments they can do, what departments they can't do. I found that out, you know, but that may be different from company to company, but, you know, the 200 to 500 person company, they're always willing to make exceptions. Now with that said, dude, we're in Silicon Valley. We're made up of nothing but a bunch of immigrants. You're not the only one to be looking for a job out there in your particular situation. You know, Silicon Valley is amazing. I tell people, you know, the United States is the melting pot. Silicon Valley, that pot melted. And so there are a lot of you out there that have been in this exact same situation that have gotten jobs. But the thing you gotta think about is, you know, you got to view this as the Hunger Games. How are you going to stand apart from that person sitting next to you? How is that superpower going to, that superhero inside you, going to shine higher than that person next to you? So you guys are all in your little private Hunger Games mode right now, where, you know, there's a few good schools around here. You know, we got a Stanford down, it's a decent school. We got Berkeley, that's a decent school. So, you know, we got a few good schools here. So you're competing against them as well. So you need to make yourself shine. You need to be that person grabbing that ring. And you know what? If you grab that ring and you make yourself shine, we have been known to hire people on visas.
I would also add to that, so on February 19th, we're going to have another immigration attorney come in. I believe he's coming in during the lunchtime period. The last immigration, I don't know how many of you went to the last attorney that was here, but he had some pretty good advice in terms of the different visa options. So the H-1B isn't the only option. So get also some legal help, because there's more opportunities other than the H-1B to, you know, hire an attorney or get advice from an attorney, because they know the ins and outs of it.
You're not wondering only about the lawyer's side, we are wondering from HR point of view how this process goes. That's the thing.
Good evening. So I was lucky enough to get an employee referral for Cisco's summer sales program, and I was told that I will be contacted in the beginning of January. I still haven't heard from them. So what can I do to prevent ending up in that black hole, like you mentioned?
Well, I'll let the expert talk about it, but I would contact that person again.
I would contact all your contacts. So if you were part of the internship program, contact the people you used to work with, the hiring managers, the HR contacts. So I would just be sort of somewhat aggressive, you know. Don't wait. Don't be a passive candidate. You know.
Call or email?
I would email. A lot of things go to voicemail that people don't necessarily always pick up. But I would email, and I would email maybe kind of escalate to the people you worked with, somebody in the hiring authority. That's kind of the best chance. Hi. my name is Joanna. I'm an MBA student. I wanted to ask, not all of us are programming software engineers. What other areas are very hot right now in the marketplace that are very high rate?
I mean, it's a fairly hot market generally here in the Bay Area. I mean, it's been appropriate for us to talk about Silicon Valley. I mean, Silicon Valley has encroached on San Francisco, as many of you have noticed. As many of you have noticed, Silicon Valley continues to be, among industries, the driver for here in the Bay Area. And clearly, financial services is also an important industry, especially here in the city. And so, I mean, I appreciate the question, and I don't mean to diminish it, but I go, play to your strengths, whatever your strengths are. Play to your passion, whatever industries or job opportunities your passion may be. I mean, don't be driven by what other people have deemed to be hot or not. What appeals to you, here and here? Go for that. That ought to be your guiding light, if you will. Something else to think about, everybody wants to work at Facebook, and everybody wants to work at Google, and everyone wants to work at the next popsicle stand. Why not go to where people aren't going? Last I checked, the United States is pretty big. We've got some other companies outside of Silicon Valley. I've had people get success in going to places like Texas or Boston, or places where they don't have a whole school. Places where they don't have people that can go ahead and recruit you readily. Go ahead, and if you're not tied down, as I'm sure so many of you are, go ahead and try elsewhere. And where they're not going to go, where you don't have all the competition, and be a star there. Knowing that, once you've made your mark someplace else, you can always come back. We'll take you back. So, so try it.
Yeah, in the engineering space, once the engineering roles start picking up other roles like sales, marketing, HR, there's a lot of demand. Recruiting, companies can't find enough recruiters now, so that's a great sign. And I did the same thing. I went off, the market crashed, and after September 11th here in the U.S., I ended up going to Japan, and I came back.
Hi, I'm Yashis. I have one question. If at all we get a call for the interview, is it good to mail the HR or any of the recruitment panel and ask them what exactly they're looking for? Because whenever they posted the basic requirements or the thing, I'm pretty sure that most of them would have their attributes whoever would apply for it. So is it a good sign to mail them and ask exactly what you're looking for so they can prepare for it?
No. I'm looking at Andrew for a confirmation on that. Well, you know what? To tell you the truth, if you look at the job description, that's pretty much going to tell you exactly what they're going to be, or give you the general gist of what they're going to be asking. Because if you break down a job description, this is going into when I train managers on how to build job description, it's going to be broken down to hard skills. What are the hard skills? Do I have this? Do I have that? Do I have this? What are the soft skills? Okay, what are they looking for? Someone that's passionate about something, or someone sales, and someone is be this. Who are they working with? Okay, generally they'll say they'll be working with marketing teams, with sales teams, with this team, with that team. Okay, and then they're also going to be looking at more of company values, and usually companies have the company values on the page. And again, if they don't, innovation, communication, collaboration, accountability, passion. You can never go bad with those things. So if you ask, hey, who's going to be interviewing me? That can be a fair question. But what exactly are? You got to remember that interviewing is a very dynamic process. So the same questions I ask you may be different than the questions I ask someone else applying for that same role. Unless, of course, it's a OCCP or a government type role, but that's beside the point. So it's very dynamic. So just know those few things. Know the company, show your passion in the company. Look at the job description, tear the job description apart, and maybe look at the background of people who interview you and ask them questions about their background.
You can get a good sense of who is at the company based on their profile, where they came from, maybe what was their path to that role, and now give you a sense, maybe I'm a fit because I connect with this person?
It's likely, as unfortunately you and other job seekers have experienced, that you apply for some role online and never hear anything, unfortunately, literally anything. You know, it's something you're still interested in. I agree, it's not a good idea to go back and say what exactly you're looking for, but something you might do is kind of try to figure out who the hiring manager is. LinkedIn's a good resource for that. You know, figure out what his or her phone number is. Call up, leave a message, play dumb. Say, hey, my name is, I've got these skills, I'm interested in you working for your company in this kind of role. See what happens.
Hi, my name is Rashmi. I'm an MBA candidate here. You happen to touch upon the fact that there are some very well-recognized schools in this area already. So as a new school, we have to overcome some level of not being recognized as much. So how do you suggest that we might be able to overcome this, or how do we try and make ourselves look good, given that there might be other students from more recognizable schools around?
I would attend some other alumni events. You know, a lot of times there are campus events, so maybe doing that, explaining what your school does, and maybe the mission behind the school and why it's dynamic and different. It is a very different school, so I think you can play that out. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, you know what? It's not about the school, it's about the person. It is. It's about the person. You know, I have seen some of the dumbest people come out of Stanford. I have seen some of the most brilliant people come out of community college. And so it's really about the person. And I hate to say this, but you know, I lecture at Berkeley and Stanford, and I've done some great things.